We are Soccerphiles Canada. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Costa Rica. Part 2, the selections. Here we go! We move into section 3. Here we want to welcome listeners to the short version of the mediacast. We're going to race through a review of what we covered in section 2 mainly of the full version. So let's go back at the list we compiled in our Spotlight Review. Where we race through the selections and our predictions for starters all together. So we have manager Miguel Herrera leading them through the tournament. We'll consider him a definite selection there. And for goalkeepers, well, we had definite candidate Patrick Segura selected for the squad. No candidates at the likely level here, but at the possible level, Esteban Alvarado. He was not selected just for the preliminary squad. A bit surprised about that. Rather, it was Alexandre Lezcano getting the nod ahead of him. And we had Kevin Chamorro in that list of possible candidates too, only making the preliminary squad. The surprise here is the return of veteran Keylor Navas, who seemed to be off the squad there. And he started both of the warm-up games. So now we're not sure. We had thought Patrick Segura was a shoe-in to be the starter. Now it looks like Keylor Navas has taken his place. So we're not going to nominate a definite starter here, but we have likely starter Keylor Navas and possible starter Patrick Segura. For central defenders, we had two definite candidates, Francisco Calvo, kind of a central defender and a left back at the same time. And we had Jalen Mitchell, two definite candidates, both selected. All three of our likely candidates were selected. Fernan Peron, Alexis Gamboa, and Juan Pablo Vargas. All selected. Among our possible candidates, only one of them, Santiago Van de Putten, was selected. None of the other three, Julio Cascante, Yesa Molina, and Douglas Sequeira, none of those selected even for the preliminary squad. But our two possible but unlikely candidates, Joseph Peraza and Kevin Espinoza, both selected for the preliminary squad and not the final squad. We also have a new candidate here, Guillermo Villalobos, who was selected surprisingly for the final squad. So that gives us 7 candidates as central defense. In terms of starters, we think definitely Jalen Mitchell and Juan Pablo Vargas will be the starters, and if it's a 3-man defense, we would add Francisco Calvo to that. But Francisco Calvo might also be a left back, so we effectively have him on the list for left backs here too. We have definite candidate Ariel Lassiter as a left back and likely candidate Joseph Mora. Our possible candidate Ronald Matarrita, only selected for the preliminary squad, and beyond that, one of our 4 seemingly off the squad players, Joaquin Roman, was selected for the preliminary squad but didn't make the final cut. In terms of starters, well, if it's a 4-man defense with a left back, we think Francisco Calvo is a likely starter there. And then we have possible starters Ariel Lassiter and Joseph Mora. Joseph Mora moving up in our estimation because he started both of the pre-tournament warm-up games. Right back, a very strange situation over here. We had no definite candidates. Both of our likely candidates, Axel Quiros and Gerald Taylor, only making the preliminary squad. And then our possible candidate, Justin Salinas, also just the preliminary squad. The only one making the cut then was our possible but unlikely candidate, Kene Mairi. And he is on the final squad. And then one of our 4 seemingly off the squad players, Carlos Barahona, at least made the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. So with our 2 likely candidates out, especially Axel Quiros, that left us a bit boggled as to who the starter's going to be. So we're going to say starter is undefinable here, but some of the possible starters could be Kene Mairi, central defender Jalen Mitchell, or even right winger Carlos Mora, who started the second warm-up game as left back there, or as right back, I should say. In the midfield, for defensive midfielders, we had two definite candidates, Jefferson Brenes and Alejandro Bran. Both of those selected for the final squad, as was our likely candidate, Orlando Gallo. But our two possible candidates, Sebastian Acuna and Rashir Parkins, only making the preliminary squad there. For central midfielders, we had a definite candidate in Brandon Aguilera, actually coded as an attacking midfielder, but we moved him here since he had been playing here. He did make the final squad. And the next candidate was possible but unlikely. It was Alan Cruz, who made the preliminary squad but not the final cut. And then only one of our four seemingly off the squad players made it. Rowan Wilson made it there, but veterans Yeltsin Tejada and Celso Borges not selected for the preliminary squad even. We'll cover left and right midfielders before we predict starters here. We had possible candidate Randall Leal as a left midfielder. He was selected for the preliminary squad, as was Mauricio Villalobos. Only the preliminary squad for both of those players. Villalobos was possible but unlikely. Right midfielder, we only had one candidate seemingly off the squad, Suhanda Zuniga, who was not even selected for the preliminary squad. And now we can go back and talk about starters in the defensive central midfielders. And again, it's very difficult for us to name a candidate here, so we don't have anyone that we think is definitely or even likely going to start. We think it's kind of a rotation among these players, five of them: Alejandro Bran, Jefferson Brenes, attacking midfielder Brandon Aguilera, Orlando Gallo, and then Josimar Alcocer added to the list because he started both of the warm-up games there. He's actually a right winger, but has been becoming pretty versatile in different positions lately. So yes, again, we can't really pin down the squad because it seems like the manager hasn't pinned down his squad. Up to attacking midfielders. On the left attackers, we had two definite candidates. Josimar Alcocer, even though he's coded as a right winger, he played mostly on the left in this period. He was selected for the final squad, as was Alvaro Zamora. Then we had one possible candidate, Randy Vega. He just made the preliminary squad. And seemingly off the squad, Jewison Bennett also making the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. Our prediction for starters over here is Josimar Alcocer as a likely starter, but we're not calling him a definite starter. Right attackers. Well, our two definite candidates are actually coded as forwards. It's Warren Madrigal and Kenneth Vargas, but they did start as right attackers here. Some may be surprised that one of the last remaining veterans from the 2014 World Cup, Joel Campbell, just making the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. And then possible candidate Carlos Mora selected for the final squad. Over on the right side here, though, we can't begin to put money on who we think is going to be a starter. So we're going to say starter undefinable over here, but possible candidates are Kenneth Vargas, Warren Madrigal, Alvaro Zamora, and Alejandro Bran, the defensive midfielder who actually started both of the warm-up games kind of as a right attacker. Central attacker, they don't use this position much, but we have a few candidates on our list. The first is at the possible level. It's Craig Perez. He was selected for the preliminary squad, as was possible but unlikely Aaron Suarez. But a surprise in that seemingly off the squad, Christopher Nunez, not only making the preliminary squad, but also making the final cut. So he is on the squad. We move on to forwards. We have a definite candidate in Manfred Ugalde. He was selected, as were the two likely candidates, Alonso Martinez and Andy Rojas. However, possible candidate Anthony Contreras not selected even for the preliminary squad. And for forwards, we think Manfred Ugalde and Alonso Martinez are likely starters. I forgot to put the graphics up there, but that's what we landed on. Woo! That's it. That is the end of our Spotlight Review. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.